Hello, dog people, and welcome to another episode of the Rocker Dog Podcast, the show that talks to musicians about their bestest boys and goodest girls. I'm your host, Tim Dill, along with my bestest boy, Charlie, and today we have a very fun conversation with singer-songwriter Jenny Owen Youngs, who will be embarking on a 15-date spring tour that kicks off on February 20th in Northampton, Maine. And this is her muscularly ripped rocker dog.
Today we're talking about Frank Castle for long, Frank for short, Francis when he's in trouble. He's a dog of many names, but we could probably leave it there. He's a Boston Terrier. He just turned 5. And he's a very cool, very boisterous, extremely social, and inexhaustibly curious young man.
All right, I love that. Usually I start exactly by saying the context of which you got Frank. So if we're going back 5 years, are we on the edge of, or the beginnings of the COVID?
Yeah, my now wife and I, Jess, had just moved into a new apartment in Pasadena that we specifically moved into because our previous place didn't allow pets. And we were like, we got to get a dog in our life, let's do this. So we moved in at the beginning of March 2020. And then we were like, okay, let's get right on this dog business. And we, found somebody whose dog had like an accidental litter. So they were just, trying to find homes for the puppies. And we were like, cool, let's set up a pickup date. The pickup date that we picked was the day that Los Angeles went into lockdown. So we were like, well, we're just going to go get this puppy. And then we're not going to go anywhere for a year, I guess.
Right.
Which ended up being kind of great because we got to do a lot of training. We were, just all together 24/7, and it helped with like the reinforcement and learning and getting him going down the path of good and not evil, I hope.
Right.
Fingers
Well,
crossed.
we'll get into that. There's a couple of posts I want to revisit to kind of have you explain. But so the Boston Terrier, that wasn't something you sought out. Was it more the opportunity that this litter happened, and why not?
It was sort of like synchronicity. I myself always grew up with big dogs. I always imagined myself having, some kind of like lab or shepherd mix, because that's like what I grew up with. And then later my parents had a long line of St. Bernards. So I like really got into big
awesome.
dog business. They're amazing, but my wife was like very specific. She's not a dog person. She's only a Boston Terrier person, and was like, this is my criteria. We must meet these parameters if we're going to have a dog. Funnily, now in hindsight, she like came up with this framework based on a few Boston Terriers she had known over the span of her life, and they were all extremely calm, gentle, well-mannered, thoughtful little philosophers,
Right.
So she was like, so it's obviously a very calm, chill breed, which is perfect. I don't know how she met like 3 different totally anomalous Boston Terriers, but Frank is like a pogo stick. Frank is a ping pong ball.
I love it. I love to hear it. Did you have to choose between 4 or 5 puppies at the time?
There were just a couple by the time we got in touch. There were just a couple left. And Frank was the runt, and Frank, cover your ears. We actually were eyeing his bigger brother.
Right.
But by the time we sort of like sorted everything out, that pup had been adopted. So we got the runt thinking, oh, cool, he'll be so small. Frank is 30 pounds, which is pretty heavy, pretty big for a Boston. He's extremely ripped. He's like Jess always calls him the Jason Statham of Boston Terriers. He's just like pulling with muscle.
Love it. And why the name Frank? How did that come to be?
So we selected the name Frank in tribute to Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, specifically as portrayed by John Bernthal in the originally Marvel, but now I guess it's on Disney series. He's handsome. He only wears black and white, and again, rippling with muscle. So those were the inspirations.
Okay. And you mentioned training during, lockdown, and I saw that you gave a shout out to Tully's training. So this was all online, right?
Yes, this was online because everybody was locked down, and actually, Tully's training was founded by a friend of mine, Mary Tully, who, I had met years and years ago before I ever dreamed of being a dog owner as an adult. And when we got this puppy, I was like, I should definitely reach out to Mary. And she was like, yes, all of our trainers have transitioned online, doing, basically Zoom training. And she was like,
Hmm.
we can definitely, we can definitely get Frank started down the path to his higher education.
Right. Well, it's funny, you had a lot of videos of him just, basic sitting, and then what's to me it seems very hard, and luckily my dog was trained to do so, was leave it. And he was
Yeah.
a master at it.
Yeah. Leave it. When Frank was like very small and we were, just growing increasingly stir crazy, locked up in our house in Pasadena, we would just like build out these really elaborate leave it exercises where it started with like having him, lay down and I would put a kibble on each one of his paws and he would leave it. Then I started like putting, doing those and then putting one on his head. And then eventually it was like all down his like spine and then like doing a big circle around him with the kibble. And he just like, that is one thing I gotta say. He is a very good boy about even now, we have a 2-year-old human baby
Right.
and Frank is just like really respectful of my son's toys. Like he understands which toys are my son's and which toys are Frank's. And if he does have a moment of confusion, he is just like very responsive about like being like, "Oh yeah, that's my bad. That's not mine. I'll go about my business."
Yeah. Well, since you raised it, how was he with the whole bringing in a human to the household?
He was really confused for like the first couple of hours after we got back from the hospital, but he adjusted really quickly. I think like because from the time that he came into our family, like we've all been together a lot, like me, Jess, and
Yep.
Frank. I, I think like once he realized like that our son was like an extension of us and we were just all, together all the time, he was like, "Oh yeah, this is just like another piece of this family unit." Once he like really started to recognize that Aldrich, that's my son's name, is like a being, that's like when it
Yeah.
got really exciting. When I remember the day that he like clearly had like figured out that Aldrich was like a live entity.
Yeah.
And
And not going anywhere.
yeah. And now they're like best buddies. They like run around together and like my son will like grab one of Frank's toys and just like do loops around the kitchen island and Frank will chase him. He could very easily overtake him and wrestle the toy out of his hands like that, but he doesn't. They just like he like lets it keep going because
Yeah.
Frank's about the chase and less about like the sort of like triumph,
Yeah. Yeah.
He'll
Yeah.
go for a while.
That's great. I mean, I give the dog a lot of credit for kind of understanding understanding the context of what's going on, and not roughhousing when when it wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah, and it's like pretty amazing. I mean, we're always obviously like supervising and making sure that like
Yeah.
everything is chill, but like kids are so fast and animals are so fast. Every once in a while, you know, over the course of like getting to know each other and kind of like coming to understand, oh, this is a dog, this is like a creature, whatever. There have been occasions where like Aldrich will like, like grab Frank's ear a little too
Yeah.
tightly or whatever. And Frank is like, he's just amazing. He's like so into, he's like, he knows not what he does.
Yeah.
That's like Frank's attitude towards the child, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit how Frank fits into your lifestyle as a musician. First and foremost, early on, this is April 2020, you had a post and it said, Frank hates guitars and would like to be liberated from this vile household.
Yeah, I
Has that changed or evolved since then?
totally. He when he was a puppy and we like our trainer we were working with was like, among other things, you should start playing guitar around him so he like gets used to it. The first time we played guitar for Frank, he was like, "This is my enemy. I will bark until it goes away." He did not like the guitar. That went away pretty quickly. That probably lasted like a few weeks, his mistrust of instruments, and now he's
Right.
just like, "Whatever, do what you have to do."
Yeah. Do what you have to do to provide kibble for me on the
Yes,
table.
Exactly.
How about, I'll get to video in a second because I know he's in a video in the LAX's video, but what about, has he been on record?
He has not been in recorded music. He has been on some podcast episodes.
Okay.
I co-host a podcast that recaps Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and our signature sign off is we say until next time, and then we both howl like a werewolf. We go ow, and Frank loves to howl. He will howl at the slightest provocation, and in fact, a lot of the time when there's music happening, he will just start howling with the
Right.
music. We've had Frank guest howl on our podcast sign off a handful of times, but no music yet. I'm gonna think about how I can correct that in the future.
Okay. My dog doesn't howl. I find that really charming, but is that just me being on the other side of it? Does it get annoying?
I think it can. I think sometimes he can like work himself up into a howling frenzy, and like he's just sort of like dissociated and outside of himself when he like loses track. It can be like, whoa, dude, return to the source within and just like chill himself. But most of the time, I think it's pretty adorable, especially because he can't do it without like doing, the mouth goes straight up to the moon, He's like,
Right, right, right. Even
it's
better, even more charming.
yeah.
So as I mentioned, the video, I did see the LAX's temporary goodbye video, which
Yeah.
Frank has a nice supporting role. Has he been in any others?
He hasn't been in any other proper music videos. I feel like he did such a great job in Temporary Goodbye. I don't know why we haven't done more,
Just
but I had to train him to get up on top of a skateboard because we shot everything on a green screen and we're kind of like all skateboarding through space
mhm.
and hell and everywhere. And Frank is skateboarding with us. He did just such a beautiful job. I tried to grow that into Frank riding a skateboard as it moves, but we really didn't get anywhere with that. As far as other sort of like video exploits, it's really just the live stream thing. He has become such an important, he's really the star of any live stream that I do. So I have actually acquired a second camera, which we call the Frank camera.
Yep.
Frank cam, which is always trained on his bed. We can sort of like go to the Frank cam at any time. Anybody needs a Frank check-in,
Yeah.
which is often.
Which I love. I got it. I saw that on your holiday stream, which I got too late. But next holiday, I'm definitely going to check that out and go to the Frank Cam. And I love that you have the trademark next to Frank Cam. That nuance is very funny.
Thank you.
Now, I assume he doesn't go on tour with you.
Man, it would be cool if he did, but he's a very energetic guy and tour is just like a weird
Yeah.
sort of outside of time, bizarro schedule kind of situation. And then it's like really loud. He's come to a couple of venues for podcast events, not for music events. But
Okay.
there are times when like, you know, both my wife and I, or like all of us with my son, we were all traveling, and so like Frank got in the car a couple times, but mostly he does not attend public facing events outside of the
Okay.
house.
And is he ever present with, I know you've got a numerous songwriting collaborations. Dan Wilson comes to mind, Morgan, who was on my show. I'll butcher his name, but Rishikesh Hirway?
Oh, Rishikesh Hirway.
Yep. I see him with Watson. Now, are you familiar with these dogs, or are any of the dogs
Oh
present while you
yeah,
guys are creating art?
I've spent a lot of time with Watson. Watson is definitely, he's a constant presence, and he is the jewel of the household. He has another. Watson has acquired a dog friend who also lives in the house, who I have not yet gotten to meet because I haven't been to LA, I think, since Watson acquired his new dog partner. But Watson was, I think, the first dog Frank ever met after coming to live with us. We like in weird COVID times, we like got together at a park 20 feet away. We were like, here's our
Right.
blanket and here's your blanket, and like the dogs can hang out, I guess. And Watson has actually come to stay, like Rishi and his wife and Watson have come to stay once or twice, and Frank and Watson have a very amicable relationship. And Watson is wherever Rishi is. So like if I'm running with Rishi at his house, Watson is with us. And if Rishi or if anybody's here at my place and we're writing, Frank loves to be in the studio. He's right behind me right now. He's usually here if I'm podcasting, if I'm writing songs, whatever's going on in here. He just wants to be, where the action is.
Yeah. And is that a comfort to you as well?
Oh yeah, I mean, he's just the best. He's the furry little beating heart of the household. And it's a comfort. It's like I don't have a fireplace in my home, but like there's something about having a dog by your feet that makes you feel like maybe there is a fireplace, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, very sweet. Now, again, staying in this kind of theme of you and your industry and music, there's no shortage of merch that he's a part of. I see him on T-shirts. There's a pin.
Oh yeah,
He models for you.
he does.
Is he doing well for you? Is he, is he pulling it in?
Yeah, well let's put it this way. His dog food is not cheap. He is contributing to the household in the best way that he can. And I mean, he is like a huge part of my life and like especially in the last handful of years when like live streaming has like been a really important part of
Right.
my musical life, an important way to sort of like interact with the community of people who listen to my music, but also just like want to hang out with each other, want to like find some kind of digital community space in a time when it has been harder to
Yeah.
gather. Less
Yep.
true right now, but what was the beginning of the sentence? Because in that context, like he's a huge part. He's just part of me. He's like
Yeah.
my sidekick basically, and everybody knows him. And he's very, he's a handsome guy. He's a looker, and everybody loves to share pictures of their pets, like in my Jenny Discord. Like it's a love language. Love your pets, show your pets. Everyone
Yeah.
else loves your pets, kind of thing.
Yeah. He's an extension of your brand.
He
Not to
is.
make it, not to commercialize it, but a lot of times I kind of frame it to the artist that, he's an extension of you. The fans know him. You can play off him well, or his personality fits you well, but it is, it seems exactly that.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
Now, I've seen you online wearing a Boston Terrier University sweatshirt, drinking from a Boston Terrier mug, Boston Terrier socks.
Mhm.
Does this behavior, now it sounds, you just got done saying you've got this very supportive community of dog loving people. Does this make anybody in your orbit roll their eyes?
I mean, if they are, they're doing it with their back turned to me. I roll my eyes a little bit at like myself because I'm like, I can't believe I've become the kind of person who has Boston Terrier gear. None of it, I don't think any of it ever purchased by anyone who lives here. The thing about maybe, I don't know if it's because Boston Terriers have such like big personalities, or maybe this is just like something that happens to everybody who has a dog that's like a recognizable breed or
Yes.
something, but it's
Yep.
like it has become part of not just my professional brand, but my personal brand, where like, people think of Frank when they see a Boston Terrier like mug or shirt or whatever, and like those things will be gifted to us to our very to our delight. But it definitely was like, whoa. Suddenly, one day I woke up and I was surrounded by Boston Terrier gear.
I just want to touch upon quickly the tarot card
Oh
of
man.
Frank. He's the Knight of Pentacles. Is
Yes.
that right? What does that mean? What's that translate to in the world of tarot
It would be
or
cool.
tarot? Is it tarot or tarot?
Tarot with a hard O. Oh, I have the answer for this right behind me. Hang on. Here he is, the Knight of Pentacles. Actually, this is
Oh, on the skateboard, awesome.
painted
That's right.
painted from a picture of the skateboard during skateboard practice. And the Knight of Pentacles, the Knight has moved out of the apprentice phase and is embarking on his journey to learn all about the element of earth, how to use his natural stick-to-itiveness to get things done and avoid becoming a stick in the mud.
Huh. Can I read to you what Google gave me?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
And we'll see if it links up. It
Yeah.
says a practical man who is good at making business deals and starting new businesses. He can be flamboyant and overspend on lavish things. How odd is that?
That sounds like my dog. That sounds like my dog with his protein allergy and his like various special pills and balms and medicated shampoo. He likes the finer things in life.
Too funny. And then there's another card. There's a Pokemon card,
Oh
and it
yeah.
says Frank is lightning fast zoomer with sharp teeth and a sweet baby boy face that he uses to lower his opponent's defenses. Beware.
Yes, beware.
And then I don't know if it's on the other side. There's Listink. Frank can deploy a noxious cloud certain to fell his enemies.
Yeah, uncertain. Unfortunately, that
That's a
is
trait.
that is a trait, alas. And I missed Pokemon. I was like a little too old, I think, to get really into Pokemon. So I had to like kind of learn what all of the what all of the like points and quality, like everything that goes into a Pokemon card. There's like all these rules and categories. So don't judge me if you're out there and you're a Pokemon expert and what you've heard here today sound like a novice is responsible for it. That was me. I am that novice.
That me too. Me too as well. I had to again. That was another Google search. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you two questions about two different posts. The first post goes back to January 21, 2021, that is, from Jess's Instagram. And the caption says, "Inside my house." And the visual is a hellscape with Frank.
Oh yeah.
Can you interpret that? Or was there something going on at that time that you can agree upon or disagree upon?
Let's see. January 2021.
So he's about a year,
Right. Yeah, he
year
had just
old?
turned a year old. And like he's mischievous. His energy level, while it has like lowered somewhat in like the last couple of years, it's still extremely high. And at that time it was like very, very, very high, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just a hellscape, it's like a bunch of photographs of Frank, like all sort of like duplicated throughout
Yeah.
like volcanoes and lava flows and whatnot. And I think
It
Frank had
captured the moment.
really, yeah, it captured the moment. I think we're on the other side of that now. But all is well. I'm gonna just assure you, all is well. Boston
Yeah.
Terriers are wonderful. Everything's gonna be fine.
Well, in your defense, I will say, given January 2021, we're still like 8 months into this pandemic.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everyone is going a little crazy. So if your dog's going a little crazy, it's probably making you that much more a little crazy.
Yes, yeah. It was a tough time for everyone, I think.
Yeah. And it's no criticism by me. I saw that post and I laughed out loud. And it's like I want to hear more, and the more disastrous it is, the better.
I think like Jess was like definitely in a state of exhaustion after like the many months of training, and the many months of like all of us being together. He's a wild little guy.
Yeah. So I wind up every show with what I call the Zoomies, and that's just five fast, frivolous questions. The first is, do you let Frank lick your face?
Mm, no, but
Okay.
he doesn't really try to. I don't know. Maybe there's something about my face, but he does lick my feet a lot. And, before I had a dog of my own, I would never have thought that I would let that happen. But
Right.
so it's a victimless crime,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. I can't say that hasn't happened to me. It seems like I've had a dog, well, I won't go there. I was going to say I've had a dog lick me in most places that are, PG places, or G places, I should say. Question two, does Frank have a theme song?
Well, Jess and I are both musicians, and we have like created a lot of theme songs. I think his like real anthem is sort of like think of like, I don't know, Depeche Mode. I can never remember the name of the band who has that song that's like, I wanted to be with you alone and talk about
Oh,
the
Tears for
weather.
Fears.
That's Tears for Fears. Okay, like
Hmm.
that kind of band, the sort of like 80s like electro pop-ish thing. Okay. It's kind
Uh-huh.
of like minor. There's synths, but it's like bumping, and the chorus is like, do you mind?
Not at all. Please do.
Okay, amazing. It's like, he's just a baby boy. Oh, 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 just a baby boy. Oh, 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 he's just a baby boy. Oh, 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 just a baby boy, just a baby boy, baby boy. That is the one.
Okay, I love it. Now, this goes back to, recording. Have you ever recorded anything like that or anything, even for yourself, for Frank?
We talk about it all the time. It has been a constant conversation for, the last like almost 5 years. But we haven't done it yet. But one day, I feel it will happen.
I think please do. And again, maybe it stays private, but you'd probably be surprised how many dog lovers would be like, I'll put that on my phone and, play it as he walks in the room.
Yeah. Okay. Now you're really inspiring me. I'm gonna resolution 2025 record Frank's theme.
All right. I'm gonna tape that and play it back again and again.
Manifest.
Okay. Question 3 is, I know Frank does not go on tour with you, doesn't go to shows. If he did, what would he want on his tour rider?
Oh my gosh. Well, he's got to have, it's going to be like a mile. It's going to be way longer than my rider. It's like one stick, preferably 4 to 6 feet long. He likes sticks that are 2 to 3 times. Just enormous stick, jar of peanut butter, dish of blueberries, chilled, apple slices, carrots, and, a blanket that he can sort of like, that it is so big that it can be folded over a zillion times, so he can like lay down on it for like 1 second and then get up and then like shuffle around and then kind of get his head underneath one of the folds and like get that over his head so he kind of looks like a little ghost dog, and then like repeat, basically like croissanting himself into this blanket over and over again. I think those requirements should do it.
I love it. I would love to see that actually on a rider that somebody at the venue is going to be looking at. Question 4, do you have a dog voice? Do you use a voice to speak to him, like a head voice? And additionally, do you channel a voice as if this is what Frank sounds like humanized?
Okay, so sometimes I talk to him regular and sometimes I unconsciously slip into like, oh, like that kind of thing. We have not landed. We don't know what Frank's voice sounds like. We've been wondering. We've been trying stuff out for the whole time we've known him, and we have not landed. The closest I've gotten is like, because he is kind of like a Napoleon complex. There's like moments where his voice is definitely like, put him up, but outside of those moments, we're not really sure what he's about.
Okay. And the Boston accent, maybe that's low-hanging fruit.
That actually, I don't know how I've been missing that all these years, but that's going into the bin for consideration. You might have
or a Boston accent as a Napoleon-like ruler.
Yeah.
Okay, last but not least, I always ask my guests if there's a shout out they'd like to give to a dog organization or a service.
Oh yeah, I mean, we already talked about them, but I think Tully's training, I don't know if
okay.
Does that fall within parameters?
It does indeed.
They were a savior to us. They helped us out so much, and they helped out a bunch of our friends. Like I think a lot of people got puppies right at the start of the pandemic, and then we're like, uh-oh. We had a lot of friends who were in that boat, and I know that a lot of them were also seriously helped out, them and their dogs, by Tully's training. So love them. Happy to recommend. Great.
Well, Jenny, thank you so much for taking time and giving me Frank's background. It's always fun for me to hear about it. And I hope you had as much fun as I did.
I had a blast. Thank you so much for having me. I wish every podcast was a podcast where I got to talk about my dog all the time.
Thank you.